Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the AutoCraft server. So recently I've noticed that myself and the fellow members of Captains of Industry have been going through a lot more wood than we normally do. And since we share farms and resources, this tree farm right here is our main source of wood. And right now, if you're using birchwood, which we don't really use much of, you can produce approximately 12,000 logs per hour. But with the rate we're going through wood for crafting chests, hoppers and other wood related products, we're going through this a lot faster than we can actually produce it. And we don't want to be AFK all the time over at this farm waiting for logs to be made. So today we're going to be constructing a 2x2 spruce tree farm that produces approximately 36,000 logs per hour. So yeah, this farm, we're going to keep it. We aren't going to touch it, we're going to keep it because it's good for all the other types of trees, or well, quite a few other types of trees, not all of them. But I want something that's a little bit more specialised, so let's build a 2x2 spruce tree farm. Now this thing's going to be quite large. We're going to need a large item collection like water stream set up like we do in the tree farm over there. And this thing also has, I think it's like 8 TNT dupers on it. And yes, that is a TNT block there that is emerald texture. It's because we're still using Rustic's texture pack, or resource pack sorry, and yeah, it's everywhere I go I see his face. So yeah, we need to do that, and we need to worry about all the TNT and stuff like that, so I don't want it too close to any other farm. So I'm thinking we should build it in this area here that we've flattened out. We're flattened out and we're constructing this melon and pumpkin farm. Now what we can do is we can take this hill back further by quite a ways. Maybe we can take it all the way back to the cove, so we'll leave this bit here, and then that should be more than enough space. Then what we get to do is we're probably got to build it from the bottom up, so we'll deal with item collection first. So we'll build that system. We won't worry about chests because since this thing produces 36,000 logs per hour, that's approximately 11 double chests. So we're going to need quite a large chest wall. Now I will be emptying all the logs into shulker boxes to make, you know, the storage a lot more compact. So that would mean that a double chest can hold approximately 100,000 items. So if you're only getting 36,000 items per hour, then yeah, you can get about 2.5 hours worth of wood into a single chest if you use shulker boxes. But that will mean we'll be going through our shulker supply a lot more, which means we'll have to go end busting at some point again. But yeah, enough chit chat, why don't we start gathering all the materials we need for this farm. I have already made a list, it's quite large, it's a lot of different components we're going to need. But after we collect all this stuff, we should be able to build this thing super quick. Alright, so we now have 1, 2, 3 shulker boxes full of materials, and yes, this emerald texture is in fact TNT. It's because of the resource packs, so I might get confused. You guys might be confused as well throughout this episode, but you know what, it should be fine. But yeah, I think I actually bought out most of the server's honey supply, funnily enough. So I went over to the mechanic's base because I knew he had a honey block farm, because I already bought all of the honey from Jason. So I went over to the mechanic's base, left him 5 diamond blocks and took some of the honey he had. He's currently away doing some other stuff, so he's not in the server right now. But yeah, that'll be a nice little prize for him when he comes back. So yeah, let's take this stuff and we can now start work on the farm. Now I don't think I've mentioned this, but this is a farm by El Mango. You know, we like building his farms here on the AutoCraft server. But yeah, let us get a start to it. Let me flatten this area right here, and then we can start construction. Alright, so it didn't take long at all, but we got that hill removed and it's opened up quite the amount of space for this farm. Now, this farm itself is quite large, not in terms of like the actual floor space it takes up, but it's very, very tall. It's like, maybe 40 blocks tall, probably taller. So yeah, putting a building around this thing is going to be quite annoying. But yeah, we have the water funnel in place. The item system itself, or the storage system I should say, we're going to do that last because Splashes is currently saving up iron and chests and things for another storage project, so I don't want to take away from the materials she's saving up. She's been AFKing near the iron farm to get lots of iron for that stuff. So yeah, we'll do that at a later date. Anyways, next steps is we need to actually build this thing. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this already, I don't think I have, but this is a farm by El Mango, and if we press M and R, we will activate the, what do you call it, the Lightmatica thing, and you can see we've still got the potion brewing system over there. So if we just step up here, as you can see, this farm is quite tall, and we have quite a lot of stuff. Now I could just show you the whole thing at once, but you know what, let's just click on through that really quick. Yeah, that is a lot of stuff right there. Just look at that, it's huge. There we go. At Y143, so yeah, that's well over 60 blocks tall. That is insane. So I think next what we'll do is we'll get the floor in place, which means we'll probably have to try and get this system built. I think this part here isn't actually all that complex, so it should be easy enough to do. So we'll get the floor built, and along with the area where we're going to be planting the trees. That is going to be the simple stuff. It will take us not long to do whatsoever, considering the fact that we already have all the materials there. But all of the other stuff, the flying machines, yeah, that's going to take quite a little while to place in. So yeah, we'll do this in gradual stages, and we'll get this thing finished in no time. Alright, so progress has been made. So we have the AFK spot, which is right there next to that lever. We need to put in a minecart, but we'll do that once this thing is complete. We have the dirt, that will have the saplings on top, along with the system that will eventually push the dirt up, and then the flying machines will push the logs over. I also, as you can see here, we have a water stream coming up here. This is so that we can get some saplings back so that we can plant some more trees. Now if we just quickly pop into Spectator Mode, we go below ground. As you can see, the water stream funnels down here like so, it's meant to do that. And then through this water stream down here, and then over like so. So right here, we need to set the item fit. We haven't done that yet, but it is being fully constructed. We need to put in a bunch of spruce saplings along with some fillers, and then they'll go through this system, go down here, and then they'll be shot up through this water stream, and then over to the AFK spot, which they'll be dispensed right on top of this dropper. We'll be right here, so we'll be able to pick them up. Now I believe this chest right here is for the bone meal, which is great. Now we've made some decent progress so far, but we're nowhere near finished. If we just turn on the rendering, as you can see, we still have a little bit more stuff to do. So we need to put in some dispensers here that will output the bone meal, which is important. These logs we don't need to place, so don't need to worry about that. Then we have this big monstrosity that is the flying machines. Now these push the logs over into the blast chamber, and then the TNT drops at a certain time, and then boom, everything blows up all nicely. So this system is going to take quite a little while to do because it is quite complex. There are many different flying machines. That's why we have slime blocks and honey, because of the sheer quantity of them. So it will take quite a lot of time to construct, which is going to be a lot of fun to do. Anyways, rather than rambling on, why don't I get started on building the flying machines for this thing, and then we'll be one step closer to finishing this tree farm. Alright, so it's been several hours, but I have the flying machines that will push the logs into the blast chamber all done. Now the reason it took several hours was because the way I constructed this, I never followed the tutorial for this farm. I used a schematic and I was placing things, and sometimes what I'd do was I'd place this observer first, and then I'd place this lamp, and then it would activate the flying machines here, and then I need to rebuild this entire segment. So what I did was I built these areas first. So I built the water streams, or the things that will have the water streams. I need to put the water in right now, but that means that since I'm only doing the water now, I need to take out the observers so that, you know, it doesn't activate the whole system. Then we put in the slime blocks along with the pistons, and now we're at where we are. Now if we quickly pop into Spectator Mode, and then we activate the render layer for this farm, as you can see we still have quite a bit to go. So the obsidian for the blast chamber right here, along with an additional redstone bit there, we still need to do that. It should be easy enough. Up here we need to place in these blocks to block the light from reaching the saplings, because what can happen is when saplings are exposed to light, they have a random chance of growing at any given tick within the game. So what can happen is if you don't block the light, the saplings can grow at the wrong time and can break the farm. Say if the pistons have already extended, the flying machines have went over this way, and then it grows, they'll try and come back, and then the whole thing will break, and then you'll need to rebuild the whole thing. So that's why we put in this system. Now we will have to light this area up as well, because it isn't like mob proof, so mobs can spawn in certain blocks, but we need to make sure that the light doesn't reach any of the saplings here, because that will then cause the same problem that we'd have without that layer stopping light from reaching the saplings. Next, on top of that, we have this redstone circuit which will lead into the TNT dupers, which should be easy enough to build. It should be a fairly quick thing to do. We've worked with TNT dupes before for the other tree farm over there, for the world data and other things, so this stuff should be fairly easy. Anyway, so next steps is we're going to get all this final stuff constructed, since it's fairly simple, and since we've already done most of the heavy lifting, it really shouldn't take that long. So we'll get that stuff done, and then we should be able to give this farm a proper test. I will need to go and double check everything once it's done to make sure everything is ready to go. But yeah, I'm happy with this, so let's get back to it. Alright, so the obsidian for the blast chamber is in place, the roof is done, and all 8 TNT dupers are online and ready to go. Now it took me a few attempts to build some of them because I kept on missing bits because I've been following a schematic, and the textures between the schematic and the actual blocks are the same, so sometimes it's hard to see what you've missed. So yeah, that duper is all done, or I should say all 8 of those dupers are done. And now technically this farm is ready to go. Now before we can even start this thing, we need to get a storage system in place. Also, I filled up the item filter down here for the saplings, so that's finished as well. So yeah, we need to get a storage system in place for this thing, because if we start this right now, we've got nowhere to put all the logs, which would be quite a problem. And since this produces 36,000 logs per hour, or approximately 11.5 double chests worth of logs, we're going to need some shulker box loaders for this thing. So I'm thinking we'll set up at least 5 shulker box loaders. That should be able to handle all the logs coming in, I think, along with some other storage for sticks, along with some other saplings, because knowing our luck, we'll be able to take in all the saplings, but some of them will, escape this system and end up in the main storage. And since we're going to be giving some shulker boxes of wood to Ruthic splashes, I'd rather have them full of purely logs and not have anything else mixed up in them. So why don't I get started on planning out that system? I need to see exactly how many shulker box loaders I need in order to, support this farm, because I don't want to make more than what I actually need to do, because what's the point in that? So yeah, let's get straight into it. Okay, so it is done. The storage system is in place, and now this thing should be ready to go. We will need to fill up that chest there with bone meal, so we should have some bones in our ender chest actually, so that should be easy enough to do. Before we do that, let's take a look at the storage system. So there isn't much chests here, as you can see, because we're going to be going with the shulker box storage system. So if we pop into Spectator Mode right now, pop down below the ground, as you can see we have a bit of redstone here. Let me go around this side so we can get a better angle of this. So right here we have 6 shulker box loaders, because that's how much we need. So we need at least 4 to support the amount of wood we're going to be getting from this tree farm per hour. And since each hopper can handle about 9,000 items per hour, 9 times 4 is 36, and we're handling 36,000 items from this farm, or 36,000 logs that is. We will be getting sticks and saplings, hence why we have 2 additional shulker box loaders, 1 for sticks, 1 for saplings. The 1 for saplings won't be used anywhere near as much, because obviously some of the saplings will be sent back through the system and up to our player. So we might actually switch that out for something else, because chances are it won't really have an impact. Now I did set up the item filter, so that's why these compartments are lit up, because if we look down here we should have, yeah, we've got items ready to go. Now right here is the dispensers that will have the shulker boxes, and what I've done is I've set up a hopper line that will take an output from this chest. We'll put the, what you call them, shulkers in there, and then they will go and fill up the system. So yeah, each chest and the main storage here that is, let me pop back into survival mode and clear the chat. So each chest can hold just under 100,000 items, and since we generate about 36,000 items per hour, that's about 3 hours worth of AFKing there, and we have enough capacity to hold at least 500,000 logs, 500,000 sticks, and eventually 500,000 saplings. So yes, this is quite a lot of stuff. This is probably the craziest tree farm I've built, like ever, which is quite nice. That's actually the first shulker box loader I've ever constructed as well, which is interesting. Well, in the survival setting, I've done it in, creative all the time, but yeah, this should be good. So what we need to do is we need to load this thing up with shulkers. I'll be doing that. I'll be using our shulker supply. I'll probably go through, I don't know, say 2 stacks of shulker shells, and that will give us a stack of shulker boxes, so I'll put them all in there. And then my plan is to go and do some AFKing and testing this thing. Because yeah, I have double checked it already and this thing should be good to go. There's nothing missing. I've made sure all of the fly machines will line up with Obsidian, so they should fly back when they need to. So yeah, I guess now what we could do is we can go and give this thing a little test run, and hopefully when we come back we've got maybe 100,000 logs or more. Alright, so I've been using this tree farm for approximately 1 hour. It might be a little bit less than that, and in that time we got 10 shulker boxes of logs. Now there is a problem with this thing. We should have got, that's about 17,000 items right there. We should have got about 36,000 logs in that time. So we have a major problem. That major problem is the shulker box loader. So basically what would happen is, if we go into Spectator Mode real quick, with the current design, basically the whole system would overflow with logs, the item filters would break, and then, well yeah, nothing could get through. So I think most of those items, so at least nearly 20,000 items, basically despawned, which is kind of bad. So I did come up with a new design, and I've been testing it a bit, and yeah, it seems to be doing the exact same thing again, which is annoying. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have to design something completely brand new. The problem we've had is this original shulker box loader system was from back in like 1.11, and I updated it, and redstone mechanics have kind of changed a bit since then. So we need to make something that's a little bit more modernised. So yeah, we got 17,000 logs right there, and we've got some more logs in the shulker box right here because I've had to take them out of the storage system and then sort them all manually. We have not even one full shulker box of sticks, so I'm going to need to rebuild the system and send that stuff back through, and not even one shulker box of saplings. So yeah, this is a bit problematic, but I'm going to do a little bit of experimentation and see what we can come up with, because I want this thing to work perfectly so that, you know, we don't have any of these problems in the future. And then the fellow members of the Captains of Industry can come and use this farm if they need to as well. Alright, so we're in a testing world right now because I've been messing around with different shulker box loaders. So the one over here, this is what we were using originally. This is a design that El Mango did a tutorial on way back in the day. This is a world download for it, and I made a modification to it to try and get it to work. But yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit complex. There's lots of redstone and moving parts in places, and well yeah, it's just not reliable for me. Now I think that may be due to the fact that I just didn't have enough loaders for the amount of logs I had coming into the system, or it could be due to some redstone changes that I forgot about. So yeah, I came up with, well, I didn't come up, I did a little bit of research and I found a guy on YouTube by the name of Borcon. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I'll leave a link to his tutorial in the description for this shulker box loader. I've just added an Impulse SV item sorter to the top of it, and I've been doing my own testing. So yeah, this thing is tileable like the last design, and it's got a little button here so we can manually activate it, because you need to do that to start the whole system off. And yeah, it is fairly simple. So I did a little bit more research, and so if we look at the trees, so spruce trees, the 2x2 ones, they can grow up to 32 blocks tall. So if we're having 2 trees per harvest, that could be upwards of 4 stacks of blocks right there. So I used that as my test case. So why don't we get 4 stacks of logs ready. Obviously the first 2 item sorters are for saplings and sticks. I never bothered, you know, changing anything. I just basically replicate what we currently had. So 4 stacks of logs. Let's drop all of these into the system, and yeah, okay, we've got a little bit left, so we should probably add on an additional shulker box loader at the end of that. So yeah, that is it. It should work fairly nicely, and hopefully this means that we shouldn't really, you know, have to go back down underground and fix this system. So I'm just going to go right ahead and get this design constructed, because you've already seen how it is. It really shouldn't take me all that long. I need to excavate some space underground, tear out the old system, build this new one. I'm going to craft some more shulkers as well. I'm going to go through my entire shulker shell supply. That's not good. So yeah, I'm going to get all that stuff out of the way, then we can do a proper test of this farm, and hopefully it works as intended. Alright, so I've just returned from my AFK session. It was a bit longer than usual, an hour and a half compared to the hour we did, and in that time we got 15 shulker boxes of logs. Now I can confirm the shulker box loading system down below is working perfectly, so that is great. But I have discovered that the rates of this farm were affected in 1.16, because if we pop into Spectator Mode real quick, there's a little bit of a bug. So in 1.15, if you had, say, two groups of full saplings next to each other, they would be bone meal just fine. But now, they're basically, when they're together, there's a chance that, you know, they won't grow, which is kind of bad. Now, since the way timings are with this farm, if you're to place the back full saplings first, then the first four, then you wouldn't have a problem, both trees would grow. But if they're placed in such a way that both trees try to grow at the same time, then you're going to encounter problems. So our rates have basically been cut in half. So compared to getting 36,000 logs per hour, it's not that, it's more like 17 or 18,000 per hour, which, you know, isn't bad. Now, I must stress as well, so we had 15 shulker boxes full of logs. If we pop on down here, we have several other shulker boxes which are close to getting full, which is quite nice. Obviously, the first shulker boxes will fill up faster, and then these last ones take a lot longer because less items get to this point. The only time items really get this far down is if you get to 32 block tall trees, which doesn't happen all that often. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this shulker box loader. It's a fantastic design. I'll leave a link to the tutorial in the description, along with a tutorial for this tree farm, because it is once again another mango tree farm. They're brilliant, they're just great, lots of logs, lots of stuff, which is fantastic, so I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. Alright, so since it's been a week since Rustic sabotaged me with that really weird resource pack, we finally took it off. So our textures are back to normal, our hotbar is back to normal, our textures for the sword and pickaxe have been put back to normal, the TNT textures, oh, get rid of that, the TNT textures are back to normal, and yeah, we won't have to deal with an irritating texture pack anymore. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Now, this farm is really good, like it is really good, and it's that good actually that I am going to drop 9 shulker boxes off to Rustic and 9 to Splashes. But we're not going to do it at their bases, we're going to go to our meeting area over where we do the Captains of Industry meetings, over in Desert, over that way. In fact, let's just fly on over that way right now, and we're going to drop it off in their payment chests. Because yeah, like I'm going to be doing a lot of tree farming, and I need to track the rates of this thing since it isn't working properly, or because the rates have been, you know, cut in half because of a bug. So yeah, if I can keep these guys stocked up with logs, then yeah, we shouldn't really have any problems. So there is Rustic right there, so let's drop off 9 shulker boxes. There we go. And then let's drop off 9 to Splashes. This box of redstone ore has been here for 2 months. That is the box I gave Splashes when we cleared out the perimeter. So yeah, she now has a lot of shulker boxes in her payment chest. So let's just drop all of these off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect, alright, so I've just gifted Rustic and Splashes 9 shulker boxes of logs each, and that should do them for quite some time. I'd like to thank you all for watching this episode of the AutoCraft so far. Make sure you go and watch everyone else on the server. On the left hand screen right now, there are 2 videos, one that YouTube wants you to watch and one that I think you should watch. Make sure you go and watch them, and remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hopefully you will enjoy the videos.